we've shown that one can recover from addiction. It could be inpatient, outpatient, it could be equine therapy, it could be Reiki, yoga's on my list, right? The ways that we can heal.
Hello and welcome to How We Are Healing, the podcast where real people share vulnerable stories and life-learned lessons. I'm Tristan, friendly yoga teacher and your host through the darkness towards healing, one conversation at a time. And now, on to the episode. Healing, party of two. Healing, party of two. Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm your host Tristan, and we are here to talk about how we are healing. So with me today is Pat Boze, intuitive coach. Pat, welcome to the podcast.
Hey Tristan, thanks for having me.
Why don't you go ahead and get started talking about a little bit about your healing journey, a little bit about your history.
Yeah, okay. So I guess I would call myself a healer, even though that's a big word to understand, what I know healer is someone who is healing. I've had a lot of privilege and opportunity to do a lot of healing in my life. So much so that now I want to help others do that and find what's alive for them in the healing space. Hashtag I am healing. And in doing this, it's just become a bit of I hate the word obsessed, but definitely like a nerd for holistic options and what all the different ways that someone can heal.
Thank you for that. So what are some of the things you're doing in your personal life on your healing journey, like your daily habits?
Okay, so starting daily, includes breath work, some beautiful music. I have a number of playlists that I put depending on kind of where I'm wanting to go and what I'm wanting to do. I let, curiosity be my guide there to kind of like, what am I curious about? Or, someone had mentioned that frequency. Let me see what I can find. Just kind of like go into it and have fun with it. Kind of like a tool belt of stuff that I do for about an hour every morning. Just center, certainly some stretching and movement as well to kind of come into my body. And I'd usually end that with some grounding and catching some of the morning sun.
Awesome. Very cool. Now, where would you say you learned some of these techniques in terms of, do you have mentors? Do you have a guru?
Well, I've had a lot of teachers. And, honestly, there's a lot of podcasts out there about great techniques to do some of these and really just finding what feels good and is fun. And also, of course, doing a little checking of facts and make sure that this is actually doing the right thing and I'm not actually hurting myself. Because there's some things in this space that are, what's the word I want to look for? Dangerous. I've certainly had teachers, and I still have teachers, and to the point of kind of being, this feels true though, like my own guru. Knowing myself and knowing what works for me, and looking at what's worked in the past. Whenever I've had like these intense feelings or I'm living in fear, what did I do before that helped me get out of there, and what can I do now to kind of get me back into my body.
So you mentioned that there are some techniques that you hear of that are maybe dangerous, or I was kind of interpreting incorrect. I wanted to touch upon that because there is a lot in the wellness industry that is maybe trendy but misunderstood, or trendy but dangerous. So I wanted to pick your brain on what you're seeing out there that doesn't really make a lot of sense to you.
Safety, always priority number one, particularly in a healing situation, right? I mean, even, healing, taking it to the hospital, they want to make sure it's a sanitary location and everybody's highly qualified and everyone's there that needs to be there and they've done all the tests. It's safety is priority number one. So with that urgency, I also look at the people that I work with in my own body, and my own healing and making sure I'm looking out and considering everything. And it could be something as simple as a counterindication between medications, right? So we'll look at, it's one thing that you'll always hear me wanting to champion is the use of natural psychedelics for trauma healing to get to really the root of the problem, the sacred wound. So in that space, like I mentioned, there's a lot of medicines you can't combine, just like in a medical space, where this is a very complicated and sophisticated system, right? So we always want to be considering that. Also in this space is the recreational use of psychedelics. Certainly people can use them on their own, but if the proper precautions haven't been made, we may have a bad trip. And that could be quite counterproductive and actually exacerbate the problem. So always thinking about how can we put safety number one and what little steps can we do so that, if, for example, we were going to have a solo journey, well, I've done X, Y, and Z, or this list of 10 things to make sure, to ensure the best possible experience. So I don't know that I would say any particular treatment, not being a medical professional in any means. So like knowing what's safe and not safe, but always, making safety the priority.
Right. And this is coming up in a lot of the conversations I'm having recently around just knowing a little bit more in depth about what it is you're getting into in all facets. So that can be in your movement, in your yoga, for example, or your diet. So there are restaurants here that have activated charcoal on the menu, and it's like that interacts with medication. So you got to know that. No one's going to tell you that at the restaurant, as well as in terms of psychedelics, making sure that you do have the proper guidance and precautions so that you're going into it with an intention and are reducing the potential of having a bad trip. Or if you do have one, you have someone there who knows what that experience is like and can guide you kind of down or through.
Yeah, through, right?
Right.
Or just, change the music and kind of change the energy. So the problem comes from just inconsistent information. And that is, compounded by science is coming out every day with new information about how the universe operates. So with this new information, we're saying, okay, and we're kind of in 11th hour in real live time evolving. So with science, and thanks to science. So it's quite confusing out there. So it's very easy to get off and to accidentally do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And so I want to talk about some of the services that you offer clients, because I feel like we're kind of touching upon some of the things that you do offer them.
Yeah. So I've been doing coaching for about 15 years, and I've worked in a number of niches, you should say, everything from transformational coaching, a big part of my career in business coaching, small businesses and startups, along with recovery from addiction. So that had me working with a lot of with trauma, traumatic experiences, post-traumatic growth, which kind of brought me back to really the person, really brings me into the deep work of healing the trauma and that sacred wound, and how we can do that. And in the last couple of years, I've finally moved into working more with psychedelic people, with psychedelic experiences. So what we now know, kind of mentioned with science, is in those 2 to 4 weeks after the experience, your mind is very willing and ready to make new connections, also make new brain cells, and really change your habit. You can literally change your mind with this. So, the combination of those, found a lot of great success with clients, and just having beautiful experiences along the way. So that's how to work with me personally. I will say, however, like right now, a lot of my time is occupied with my startup that I was telling you about, which is also in the healing space, Bonterra. It's a network of holistic healers, connecting the healers with people who want to be healed, with an emphasis on safety. So we launched just a couple months ago, and we're So I'm busy trying to find clients for the healers that I work with, kind of being the coordinator right now
Hmm.
for this new concept.
Wow, that sounds amazing. And you touched upon a sacred wound, and I wanted to expand on that term because it's a bit new to me, and our listeners might want to know what that is.
I use, and I've been taught to use sacred wound to refer to a traumatic experience, usually in childhood, in wherein the ego was formed. Something happened. It could be something subtle. It could be something severe. But at some point, we started to believe a lie based on an experience. An example I use a lot is, you have a couple and the woman cheats on the man and the relationship ends. Well, in that moment of that heartbreak, of that trauma, he starts saying, well, all women are cheaters. Women can't be trusted. And then he develops this whole personality of a womanizer, for example, or just always being very distant in relationships and really never being able to connect with a woman like he had before because he has this thing, oh, she's just going to cheat on you, you can't trust her, and whatever that is for us, for me, it's just kind of like this cowardly lion. But it's this ego, this story that we're constantly, this narrative that goes on through the rest of our life. Well, what was the moment when that started? So, and because it's really hard to change your thinking after decades, a lifetime of thinking a certain way. So, well, the idea is that with these medicines and with the spiritual, connection, with, just healing that sacred wound, we can ease some of that domination by the ego.
Right. What I pulled from that is the importance of belief. And it's another theme that I'm hearing consistently across these conversations, which is just the importance of belief and mindset.
Well, I certainly find it to be a core part of my life is that belief, faith that there is something more, and trust that that something more has my back.
That's
Or as Carrie Underwood said it, Jesus take the wheel. So you want to look at it.
bringing in Carrie Underwood. I'm so glad. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I wanted to ask about when you feel dysregulated and what you do in those moments to bring yourself back.
Like right now. I'm glad you brought that up. Let's do it now. It's very simple what I do. It's a 4 breath inhale and a 6 breath outhale. For like a few breaths, just really bringing it into what's considered heart resonance. Just brings me back into here. I find that really helps. 4 in, hold it a little at the top. I find that I can get into a bit of a rhythm with that breathing, have a little bit of a hold at the top, gasp for air, and then a long exhale, just exhale as long as you want. And it changes the resonance. There's a lot of science into that to really bring you back into your heart.
Right. And so when you inhale, you said you inhale a little more at the top, right? You kind of like suck in again.
It's what it's become for me.
Uh huh. Right.
And then a long exhale.
It's so interesting that that was an intuitive thing that you've done because I just read there is a way of regulating the vagus nerve using that kind of double inhale, I'll call it, because that's actually what is simulated when we cry. When we cry, you kind of you have that same motion, and so our bodies naturally know to do that to regulate ourselves. What wellness tips do you find yourself recommending to friends and family over and over again?
I have become quite annoying about eating healthy and gut health and gut diversity and leaky gut and the cognitive effects of having a healthy gut and all of that. I become quite. What I find in this area is that want to do something, you have to absolutely become obsessed with it. Like you have to check every single label. You have to check how this responds to that. You have to be on top of it. So, it's just, and then learning. And then when I'm passionate about something, I want to share that. So, I'm visiting my family now. We have a new family member on our way. So we're spending a lot of time back home and making everybody juices and sneaking healthy stuff into foods. So I want everybody to feel good from just eating well and really managing my relationship with food. So, because as a recovering sugar addict, it's been a whole like reshaping of the way I look at health and taking care of myself.
Thank you for sharing that. And it's amazing our similarities because I just visited my family in the United States as well and was doing the same thing, like picking apart everything in the cabinet. Why this? Why? What are you doing? Ah. And my family is just like, okay, we know you're obsessed. We know you have a lot to say about this stuff. So I identify with you 100%.
We have a lot of patience. So,
Oh, yeah. What are some of the quick tips you might have about the importance of food or gut health as something specific?
adding diversity into what we're eating to establish the healthy, microbiome. A lot of people don't realize that we're as much bacteria as we are human, and that we need to support the bacteria as they're supporting us. I mean, honestly, it's the bacteria that's eating the food. We're just eating their byproduct. So the more, and we get the bacteria, that diversity from the food in many cases. So just changing up your food, changing up your routines around food can be quite a game changer over the long term.
Thank you for that. And it's not like eat the rainbow every day. It's not, you need to eat 20 different vegetables for breakfast. It's like, no, but think about in a week maybe what you're putting in your body and make sure that you're eating the rainbow throughout the week or throughout the 2 weeks
At some
or
point, yeah, at some point, so that the bacteria can do what they do.
Mhm.
So the other thing is, I just really make a game out of not eating gluten. Fortunately, don't have kind of problems with gluten, but almost a game of making meals gluten free just for the fun of it, that kind of thing. That, of course, will go a long way to fostering that diversity.
Excellent. What are some of the wellness books you find yourself recommending to people?
I recommend a lot to people, starting out for sure, with doing the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. It's like that wellness, like starting within, and that those conversations we have with ourselves, some of that programming that I alluded to earlier. So that is a must to really plant the seed of what some Toltec knowledge. Concept really is that we've known a lot of this stuff. We've lost some of our memory, like the memories of how pyramids were constructed. We know they were, but we don't know exactly how they did them, or I don't even know if we know how we would do them today. Anyways, there's memories that we've forgotten. So this book reminds us some of these things that they're like, when you read it, you're like, oh yeah. So other books, The Divine Matrix is a new book that talks about, all these new discoveries that we have about the field, the quantum field specifically, and how it's connecting us all. And I love how they draw the connection between science and God, this higher being, and how it really just makes readers stop and realize that we are a temple, right? We are the prize, right?
Mhm.
And we don't need anything to connect, nothing at all.
What role has community played in your healing path?
Community has been this a big part of it. In about 2016, kind of at my lowest point in my life, I walked into an AA meeting and just like, I'm done, help me. I can't stop. And since then, I've really leaned into the fellowship. Yes, me at work the steps a number of times and things like that. I have a sponsor. Um, inside the fellowship, other people that are healing, having a shared language, having a shared philosophy. It it just and just having a friend at where whatever city that I go to, a meeting waiting for me, someone who speaks the same language, especially in tough times, there's always a meeting, there's always a link for something. I can get somebody to help me for free anytime, and I can make myself available to help other people, and that really helps me a lot. Helping other people is like the hammer in my self care. It's being able to do that. It just takes me out of where I am.
And I think that's why we're here, and that's part of what this project is about. It's great to heal ourselves, but we're doing it so that we can then go out into the world and share that gift of the knowledge of how to heal and the knowledge of why we're really on this planet, which is not for ourselves and our pleasure and what have you. It's to share it, and it's to be inspirational to others, and it's to help people become who they need to be, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that in a number of ways. We can do it directly, having someone as a client, or a sponsee in this case, or a yoga student, or we can also do it just by being healing, by healing, by making healing an important thing to us. Like, oh, he deserves to heal, and he's saying that, and that means that maybe I deserve to heal too. So it's valiant to heal.
Right. That's beautiful. What gives you hope about the future?
Well, I have a lot of reasons to be hopeful. I mean, a lot of evidence the sun keeps coming out, so that's pretty awesome news, right? So there's going to be a tomorrow. I'm also excited about how the world will reshape once we, reintegrate psychedelics into the world, and I really think they're going to be the great disruptor of the mental health space in a time when we need it more than ever. So seeing how that new landscape looks and what's possible as we, reconnect. I say reconnect because, evolutionarily speaking, we have a long history with mushrooms in particular. So those perceptions are shifting. Where we are today versus 5 years ago, for example, night and day.
Amazing. What have you helped someone heal in themselves recently?
Recently I had a guy who was having a bit of a hard time. Okay, a bit of a hard time is an understatement. He could not stop drinking, could not get out of this cycle, right? He'd come out a little bit, but he'd be brought back into it. And everyone was telling him what he had to do, whether it be like rehab or meetings or, just everyone had an opinion. Everyone was just so frustrated with his life, and things were self sabotage, classics textbook, alcoholism. And I was able to sit down with him and talk about what your options are. Let's approach kind of like pathways to recovery. I've come up with a list of about 35 different ways that we've shown that one can recover from addiction. It could be inpatient, be outpatient. It could be equine therapy. It could be Reiki. Yoga's on my list, right? The ways that we can heal, and really, and spoiler alert, most of them have to do with connection, right? As the cure. So lots of ways that we can connect, right? And so we went through that list and we came up with things that he's willing to do, he's not willing to do, right? And then we had his list, his recovery plan. And each day he just takes a few things from that list. And he really takes ownership of his connection. One of them was music. Pretty talented musician. So he's connecting, he's singing songs that really make him feel good. And he's doing those now more than the things that were sabotaging his life. So just really changing the perception. And he was able to go to his family and say, look, I'm not willing to do inpatient. However, these are the things that I'm going to do. And these are my accountability measures, and really coming up with an empowering way to get out of a very dark place of shame and guilt. So that's, a gift.
Pat, I'm getting really teary eyed because The fact that you weren't just one of those people who said, do this, do this, and trying to control, you approached it from a very holistic angle of, look, there are options. One of them is continue what you're doing, or here's a bunch of ideas, and then let the person decide and let that person connect with themselves to figure out how they can heal. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I mean, I even took it a step further and we gamified it. And he was each day he counted how many of those things he did, and could send me like I did 6 things today. And sometimes they were easy. It's like I did a couple of easy ones. It was 5 or 10 minutes of meditation, and I'm like, that's huge.
It's huge.
It's sometimes a minute of meditation is an achievement. So, just trying to, count up how many things he did in a week, and how that's, we're doing more than we think. So, yeah, it's good work. It's a tool belt, and that we can all have that, the things that I do want to do to support myself, my wellness.
Thank you. That's amazing. What is something you healed in yourself recently?
In terms of my healing in the last year, I was able to take some time off and travel up and down the continent, and work with some amazing healers, and learn more about my own gifts and how I want to be in this space and who I want to be. And in that, I have got a chance to bring it all out. Just like pull everything out, look at it, created a lot of space for it. That's been a beautiful adventure. I'm just so privileged to be able to have been able to do that. And then just really the momentum to keep going, meeting these beautiful healers and finding ways to may help them do what they love.
That's amazing. And so, what does the next year look like for you in terms of healing?
It's going to be a lot of traveling, and exploring new areas and finding places where we can meet with clients to do some work legally and safely. And first up is headed back to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Have a few retreats planned there, having people down, and maybe down to Costa Rica, and all the way back up to Canada. So,
okay, North America.
yeah, it's North America. 2025 is North America. We'll see what 2026 is.
Oh, amazing. How do you want people to get in touch with you?
You probably find me on patboze.com. It's probably your best way to, and you can see some of the projects I'm working on, or some of the brands that I really love to endorse. And you can contact me there. And if you're curious about Bonterra, the link is on there as well. Or I'll go ahead and tell you it's bonterrawellness.com. So either place, you'll find me.
Awesome. And what is the last message you want to leave with our listeners, our Omis?
We were talking about this last year, and I've come to call it a mastery of love. Really understanding something that's so very simple. It really comes down to love or fear. Each action, each relationship, each thought that comes, am I doing this out of love, or am I doing this out of fear? And if we start doing enough things out of love, our life becomes a love story. But it comes down to every single thought, everything we put into our bodies. And it's just, you can really start to get momentum once you stand in love.
Pat, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. See you next time.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. This has been the How We Are Healing podcast. Please remember to heal yourself so we can help heal others. Namaste. Pat, we did it.
We did it. We did it.
Hello, I'm Tristan. I was just like you. I wanted to become a yoga teacher. I noticed all the positive changes it brought to my life. I didn't want to have to travel, though, to do a yoga teacher training, and all that goes along with that, right? Being put in a room with a bunch of strangers. What if I had to use the bathroom and I have to miss a part of the lecture, and dealing with that awkwardness? I also didn't want to have to spend a fortune, and let's be real, yoga teacher trainings can be very expensive. Lastly, I wanted to be able to start teaching yoga right away because if I'm honest, I felt ready before I was even certified. It's just what happens when you find something that really speaks to your soul and when you have that focus and when you have that discipline. For me, the program I wanted didn't exist, but now it does. I created it. I created the yoga teacher training that I dreamed of. It's a course that's affordable at just $99 a month. You can even finish everything within the first 30 days if you're super dedicated. But there's no pressure. Go at your own pace, it's there. Because of this also, you can start earning money right away. I give you the tools you need so that you can start earning. That means the course immediately starts paying for itself. Just in case that's not enough, there is also a 30-day money-back guarantee. I wanted to make it so that you have nothing to lose, an entire lifetime of yoga knowledge to gain. So what are you waiting for? Get started today. Go to shantiyogaschool.com to access the course now. That's SHANTI yogaschool.com. Hey, it's Tristan again. Thanks for tuning in to How We Are Healing. I hope you found it meaningful. If you'd like to support the podcast, consider leaving a review or sending this episode to friends and family. Until next time, Omis, keep shining.